A warm welcome back to the Information Security Stack, together with me, Dan Gustafsson, and Kim Hindart.
Hubba.
As we are moving along into summer, and in Sweden, we will take our summer vacation. And yes, we have long summer vacations in Sweden. You should use our systems and the rest of the world wherever you are. But I'm off next week, and Kim will do a couple of more before he takes his well-earned vacation for this summer. We would like to continue our tradition to give you a couple of book tips or suggestions for the summer. If you just want to kick back, read something, and just relax your mind. We have a couple of suggestions for you. Kim, you have 3 of them. I have 1, so you start.
Okay. The first book I want to start with is from a Swedish statistician. So statistics, but yeah, he makes that fun and interesting, and that's our achievement by itself, actually, to make statistics fun. But it's called Factfulness by Hans Rosling. It's a shame that he passed away recently, so but that's a great book, really fun reading, and a good eye-opener in general about our preconceptions and pre-made notions we have in our head about the state of the world in general. He has statistics that shows a lot of other things that if you ask people in general, they would give another answer than the statistics show. And that's a really interesting thing. So I can highly recommend that because it's good reading in general. So Factfulness. And that's actually so it relates to our topic, that our topic is also usually part of a mystery. The statistics does not match what people have in their mind as a notion about IT systems. So yeah, so that's a great book to take into account. The second book I would like to take into account is from my favorite educator, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. And that's a great book. And why do I talk about that in information security? Well, I talk about that in an IT-related pod because I get inspiration from Neil deGrasse Tyson when it comes to educating, because he is living proof that you can do mass education on a simple matter that people who are not part of your industry, not trained in any way, can still read and appreciate and start to understand. So if he can explain astrophysics for people without any education, surely we can explain IT and IT security for people without any education. So that's a great inspiration from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I have a tendency to think that we in our industry don't do enough to educate the masses. We're a bit snorky, and that's on us. And we need to stop that, because if we want our industry to be as important as it actually is, and if we want management to take it as important, it's on our end to educate. It's on our end to explain. And that's the important part. So, yeah.
I agree.
So I think he's a great inspiration, and it's a really good read. It's a really fun read. Even if you're not the least bit interested in astrophysics, it's still a good and appreciated read. And that's why I think he's a great inspiration to show that you can explain really, really advanced and heavily complicated topics. And you don't need to know a bit about physics, you don't need to know a bit about quantum mechanics, you don't need to know a bit about relativity theories. And he still managed to explain it in a manner that's true, but not overcomplicated.
No, and graspable and relatable, and when you leave that session, you actually have a grasp of what he tried to explain, which is quite impressive. And also, he's super funny as well as a person. He's for being For being a geek, sorry to say it, but he is super funny to listen to.
Yeah, but like I said, he's my greatest inspiration when it comes to education, and he's a proof. But I'm not saying that by any means it's easy. No, it's really hard. That's why there's only a few that do it really well. But exactly. I say it's possible to do.
Yeah.
And that's an effort I firmly believe we need to do more of in our IT industry.
Yes, I agree. So in between, I'll take my suggestion to send to you. Now, once again, not related to IT in any way, shape, or form, but it's completely relatable to life in general. And see, all of us working in IT are still humans, hence this book is relevant for you. I would like to suggest a book called You Are Worth It by a former US Marine called Kyle Carpenter. It is his self-biography. And Kyle Carpenter is an amazing human, and he is an amazing story because he is currently the youngest living recipient of the Medal of Honor, US Medal of Honor, which is awarded to a service member in the US military who has gone above and beyond his normal duties and done something that very few would do. In Kyle's case, he decided when he was on a rooftop in Afghanistan on an outpost with doing his job as a US Marine, a hand grenade dropped in between him and a friend of his. And he decided, instead of running away from the hand grenade, he decided to throw himself on the hand grenade and essentially eat it to save his friend on the rooftop. Now, amazingly, he survived the blast. Hundreds of surgeries and operations later, he is still with us, which is quite unbelievable. He was essentially giving a survival rate of like 2%, and he is still here. It's not the common outcome of a hand grenade blast. I just want to recommend this book to put yourself and your life into perspective, because Kyle does an awesome job explaining what he has gained, not only from the experience in itself, which was traumatic, of course, but the mere fact that he did survive and the just price of being alive and actually have a life, and he can still tell his story. He should be dead. Let me put it in that perspective, and he understands it as well. But he is with us, and when you read that book, your problems become really small. I can just tell you, whatever you think is a problem in your life, whatever you think is a pain in your life, no, it's nothing really. It's a great book written by a super awesome human that is so humble and just puts his situation into perspective and his life into perspective. And when you read it, you can't help yourself but to put your own life into perspective. And after that, you realize your life is not that bad. It's awesome. Read it. You Are Worth It by Kyle Carpenter.
Yes. And we would like to finish with a Swedish cliffhanger. It's called A Honey Monkey, but in Swedish then. So unfortunately, this is only up in Swedish yet. But I do want to recommend this book for you when it releases in English, because it's a really great book. And it's about the modern type of warfare. Mm-hmm. What happens? How is a country attacked today? Mm-hmm. What happens? And to give you a short summary, actually, it's about a Swedish security agency and how they handle a crisis that emerges when Russia and United States are in conflict. And all the Swedish government authorities have put things in the big clouds. Mm-hmm. And Russia decides to blow up the data centers in Sweden of these big clouds. What happens then?
And it's written by a guest of ours in the podcast called André Katri. And to your point, it's only released in Swedish yet, but I am pretty certain that will be translated into multiple languages in the future. English will be one of them. I'm not sure if it's going to be called Honey Monkey in English. Let's see. Maybe it will.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is an awesome book, and we would just like to promote that, even though it's still only available in Swedish. But we'd like to give Andreas some credit as well for writing a very interesting, very well written, and a bit scary book. But it puts our society in perspective for sure.
It's a great eye-opener. What happens when we are without certain services we take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And
for sure.
Especially it's about something we've discussed as well earlier on. That in a big major conflict, smaller nations, we will be collateral. It might not be about us specifically.
No.
But if we have the big hyperscalers, data centers,
mm-hmm.
we might just be collateral just because they want to
mm-hmm.
disable certain infrastructure. And then, this is a very interesting and very sort of eye-opening book. How vulnerable are we, and what are our readiness for some type of attack like this?
Absolutely.
And just just look at what happens in the world in general. We are far from ready for a cyber security attack.
Mm-hmm.
The modern world is very vulnerable for cyber attacks.
Oh, yes.
And we are far behind. And that's scary because, to be honest, United States and the Western Alliance, the NATO alliance, might have the most modern warfare systems in the world. We have the very best fighter planes. We have the very best aircraft carriers. We have absolutely the best tanks.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't bother a bit because Russia is decades ahead of us in cyber warfare. And that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
They have invested in the modern way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need any proof of that, just look at Facebook and use elections and tamperings. Russia is way ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've actually dedicatedly invested in this. And that's that's a nice thing to keep in mind. China and Russia, they don't invest in the conventional warfare systems.
No, very different strategies. Very different strategies.
And
So anyways, hopefully that book will be translated into English soon here. And when it is, we will of course promote it here in the podcast as well. But with that being said, Kim, we will take a bit of a summer break here, and I hope you that listens to this do as well. And I just want to say thank you for everyone who is listening. The numbers are growing on a weekly basis, which is very fun to see, and we greatly appreciate it. We do not take that for granted one bit. So we will be back late August, early September, somewhere around there with the next episode. Until then, have a great summer. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.